So get off the mobile wave, get on the crypto wave, and think that through. So that kind of made the decision straightforward. It wasn't without risk, but the alternative was pretty much throw in the towel and just either get beat to death fast or beat to death slowly. And so we got into this business at that time. And of course, the last 2 years have been, I think, fairly good ones in terms of commercialization, institutionalization of digital assets. Engineer a better world. I think that engineering is divine. I mean, you got to respect engineers. If you look at what it takes to build a bridge, what it takes to build an aircraft, a spaceship, a nuclear reactor, a ship, a building, a skyscraper, what it takes to cold roll steel, you know, or create steel, or to extract petroleum out of the ground, or navigate celestially, or build a mobile phone or a radio or a television. It's pretty clear as if you look at the history of humanity and look at the history of science, that great improvements in the civilization and the human condition, they're all tied to technology.
100%.
If you master fire, electricity, oil, nuclear power, fill in the blank, higher level mathematics, these things make a difference. Antibiotics, it's unquestionable if you study it. And, on the other hand, there's a lot of other things people engage in. And, some pursuits, I like art, music, they're good. Politics is like half and half, right? Half the time it helps and half the time it hurts. And it's unclear whether it's hurting when they think they're helping or whether they're helping when they think they're hurting. The value, right? We build bridges and buildings, we provide goods and services. But the other half is the money, the financial assets in the economy that create the financing, the liquidity that allow the trading. And money, the way I see money is in the ideal world, there'd be a certain ledger, a certain amount of money, 100 million units or 100 billion units, and no one would make any more. And God would keep track of the ledger. And if I owed you, it's in the celestial ledger. And then when you owe me, it's the same. Nobody can cheat anybody. Everybody can trade with everybody.
And
And no one,
the more value I create for society, the more of it I get.
yeah, yeah. And it's just fair and a fair and equitable medium to or system for trading. But the real world is we use currencies and we use properties instead of having true money. So if you use the dollar and we trade it, it loses 7% of its value a year, except for the last 2 years when it loses 20% of its value
Mhm.
a year. But that's the best anybody's going to get, because if you're trading in pesos or you're trading in Nigerian currency right now, and they thought they were helping. The medical establishment literally thought that they were going to help bleed off the ill humors,
Yes.
but they bled him to death. This is not complicated. If you look at a hyperinflating economy, be it Weimar Republic or Zimbabwe, or look at what's going on right now in Lebanon or Turkey or Argentina, when the currency collapses, the businesses collapse. This is the same thing as when you're in a car accident and you open an artery and you're literally bleeding out on the pavement. Well, eventually, when you bleed out, your brain stops, you get a heart attack, your lungs don't work,
The
you
system collapses.
suffocate,
Yeah.
system collapse. So, what's the fundamentals of triage? Which is first, stop the bleeding. They're not like, I see you there. It doesn't matter your arm is broken, right? What matters is first, are you breathing? And make sure there's oxygen. And then second, stop the bleeding. And then we can work on the rest of you. So I think that inflation, monetary expansion is bleeding to death. We just saw a country collapse, Sri Lanka,
Yes.
just collapsed about a month ago. They tried it. They tried it with, e-gold, DigiCash. They tried it for 20 years before, and all of those failed for one reason or the other. Bitcoin is the first spark that catch hold and became a fire in cyberspace. And it's
So what?
because it drew liberally from all the previous experiments.
Okay.
and it combined, the cryptography and the general tech ideas with proof of work,
Hmm.
which meant that you had an open, permissionless system that could work everywhere in the world without a counterparty or a trusted intermediary, and no one could game the system. And so it is the first digital commodity that kind of caught fire, that sparked,
I,
that it's pretty stable at this point. I think that the great risk came in the first few years.
yeah.
It's just like, again, coming back to the metaphor of a fire. If you start a fire, right, and you can put the fire out in the first few minutes, but at some point when the fire is taken over the entire warehouse or it's broken out into the entire forest, you can't put the fire out. So I think at this point it's beyond that event horizon. But certainly back in 2012, 2011, 2013, there are a lot of questions like, would it be deemed property by the IRS?
Sure.
Would it be banned or outlawed? Online gambling got banned and they just shut it down dead on arrival. So there are a lot of things that do get squelched. It,
Hmm.
this had to get to a sufficiently decentralized, diffuse point where no one regulator or no one nation state would think they could stop it. And I think we're clearly there now. You can see that now with the utterances coming out of the White House, the Secretary of the Treasury, and the head of the SEC and the head of the CFTC. But you couldn't have been sure about that in 2012. If you look at the advances of the human civilization, many people don't think in terms of energy, but if you thought about it, you'd realize that steel is highly concentrated metallic energy. And the reason that you can build a 100-story skyscraper is because you put so much energy into a material that it could withstand the force of gravity up to 100 stories. And so, because you have steel, you can build a bridge, you can build a skyscraper, it'll last 100 years. So, that concentrated energy allowed your aspirations to become expansive in time and space, right? That's why we have the Bronze Age giving way to the Steel Age, right? Uh, Oil is concentrated liquid energy, right? And John D. Rockefeller kind of gave us standardized liquid energy. Standard oil was a pretty big deal. And if you consider trying to cross the Atlantic with wind energy instead of with oil, you could see that it really did catapult the civilization forward. Bitcoin represents digital energy, and in that way, if you think hard about it, you realize it represents digital matter too. It's the first time, it's the singularity whereby we open this portal and energy can flow into the digital realm.
Okay.
When Satoshi invented a way to transfer value from me to you without a trusted intermediary, I can send you $1 million, no bank involved.